This is Money Moves on Sin, the sports betting network.
Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel hanging out with you for the next couple of hours. And it's still early, and we've already got by something on the internet this morning. So there's that.
Yes, we did. Although it's the afternoon in the East Coast, so that's
Fair.
fine. But because I thought it looked good, but Mark Davis, owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, there was a fake picture because the combine is going on. Everybody's down there of him without the classic hairstyle that he usually rocks. And he looked better. I
agree.
I thought he looked like a handsome man.
Maybe that'll be like the sign he needed to change things up, maybe.
I mean, it's iconic at this point right now. I mean, it is on par with Anthony Davis famously will not get rid of his unibrow because he's the brow. So I think it's just kind of on par with the brand at this point. So maybe he'll never do it.
That was another one, though. I don't know if you guys remember this a few years ago. Anthony Davis on April Fool's did one of those pretend to shave it down the middle. And it actually looked really good, too. So I get it. It's the trademark. You got to stick with it. But I mean, think it over. What are you going to do? Yeah, Michael Strahan, again, as Justin pointed out with his teeth. He had another April Fool's like that, but this wasn't April Fool's. This was just somebody putting that out on the internet, and it got us. But that said, not a lot of football for us today, although the combine is going on. So if we get any interesting news items or quotes like that, we'll be sure to get those out there. Lots of other stuff to discuss, though. So let's set the table as we always do with the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
I am very excited that we're going to puck around and find out a good bit today. The NHL is back. We've got an 8-day game card coming up tonight. Only one bet that I have so far in pocket, but a lot of different futures and awards I would like to discuss. Also excited, a great guest we're going to have on deck in hour 2 of the program at 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern. Hockey analyst, former odds maker Todd Furman going to stop by the program.
Yep, some good games on the card. VGK on the road against Los Angeles. We'll see if they can pull out another overtime loss and maybe get a point. And will Colorado bounce back on the road against Utah, as well as some other interesting news in the NHL, including one Sidney Crosby and the fate of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So very excited to see what the second half, as we'll call it here, is going to look like for the National Hockey League.
We were wondering what was going on with Sid the Kid after he missed the semifinal and the gold medal game for Team Canada. Going to be out at least the next 4 weeks. So what might that mean for the Penguins and some other teams in terms of the make-miss playoff odds for the NHL? We'll also have the Cognizant Classic previewed with Matt Brown in about 15 minutes. And lots of college basketball today. West Coast bias on deck on a Wednesday. Decent college basketball slate. And yes, don't worry, we're going to talk about the belle of the ball. We'll do St. John's UConn. We'll do some of those other nationally ranked teams, but a few fun West Coast clashes on deck tonight.
Yep, including your Aztecs, center stage again. Can they get it done? Short favorites at home against Utah State. Given recent form, we'd say no, but maybe this is the spot. You bounce back, finally coming off of a road trip, coming back home. Can you catch the Aggies?
In a revenge angle, too, Utah State already beat San Diego State once this year. Last time that they were at Viejas Arena as well, 1-1 with a late 3. So we'll see how this all ultimately.
Best part about all these games, by the way, 8 p.m. tips.
Oh, yeah. We love it over here. FS1, I think that.
You're going to stay up?
Oh, yeah.
You're going to watch the Aztecs tonight?
Yeah.
I expect
for a game like that, I will, yes.
I expect live text messages.
Also,
observations.
Plenty of NBA, not only going on tonight with the card that we have some interesting matchups, but some reaction from last night, JVT, which is where we're going to begin. Another convincing win for the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday. They stay hot, 109-94, get the dub over the New York Knicks. Since January 10th, JVT, the Cavs 16-4 straight up, 13-7 ATS, and I feel like this Donovan Mitchell, James Harden combo looks like they've been playing together for years, and it's only been 7 games.
I mean, this is something I said immediately when we talked about this trade going down. It's a classic fallback and a cliche, if you will, that a lot of people, there's only one ball to go right. Then you haven't watched these two play, and you don't understand and familiar with their games. They fit perfectly together, and we saw it yesterday. I mean, and the spacing was incredible for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Their shooting last night was very strong, 13 of 35 from beyond the arc, a lot of really open looks against the New York Knicks as well. This team is going to be a threat on offense almost every single time out. You look at their offensive rating in the game as a whole against New York, very strong for the most part, especially in half-court settings, above average there, but in the half-court, 104.9 points per 100 half-court possessions. It was a really impressive win for the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday, and impressive in the sense that they bounced back. We saw them over the weekend take what I would call probably a pretty embarrassing loss. Thunder sitting 4 of their 7 top guys. You lose that game, get off to a really slow start in that game as well. but this team's going to be really freaking good. And now, I mean, you talk about this like Moses and the Red Sea. This thing's about to open up. Their schedule after this, it is all downhill from here. This team could rip off a ton of wins. And again, we keep kind of pushing this. Going into yesterday, they were 12-1 to win that division. It is going to be tough sledding because Detroit is still in control of that and up by 6.5 games. But they get the Thunder today, and the schedule is going to be brutal here in the next 4 games. It's going to be a really big run for Cleveland.
For Cleveland, I mean, it was a relatively close game at half. I think they were up 6 and then just really took off there in the third quarter. Outscored New York 23-11 in the period. Held the Knicks 3 of 24 from the field in that frame as well. And it just felt like they were kind of off and running, as we were talking about before we got on air. With that, though, another result yesterday that was pretty interesting. Not just the loss for the Lakers to the Magic, but obviously how it played out as well. And for anybody who didn't watch this thing live, Luka Doncic with a very open, good look opportunity for him to hit a potential game winner, ends up sending the ball over to LeBron James instead, who had a worse look. They end up losing the game outright. And we'll hear both sides of this, first from LeBron and then from Luka on that final possession. So here is LeBron James.
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously you have to ask Luka what he saw on there, but I thought he had a good look, and it looked like he kind of just lost his balance, didn't have a rhythm with the ball, whatever the case may be, and it kind of allowed him to get back in front of him. I was kind of off balance when he gave it to me. I thought he had a great look, but that's my POV.
So LeBron thought he had a great look.
My POV. Just say point of view, dude.
Come on. He's very trendy and young.
Yes. No, you don't have to think that. He had an open look. So I don't know if he did slip or if whatever it was. That was one of the, especially because over the course of a game, this dude takes some brutal shots. Yeah. And now he's good enough to hit them. But JJ Redick schemed up a perfect look. It was wide open, and for whatever reason, he double clutches and then throws the grenade to LeBron and is like, "Please bail me out." That was such a weird performance from him in that moment, and it comes on the heels of what we talked about with this team, what we've talked about with Luka. This just every step of the way this season, Stormy, and we've hit on this a lot. We've covered it a lot. This has not been a team that has felt like what their record is. Mm-hmm. This has been a team that has gotten lucky in clutch games, and some of that is due to the talent that they have, the individual shot creators that they have. They have been awful on defense. They've been terrible against some of the best teams. They have been, I guess, okay against some comparable opponents. This would be one of them, and they lost, and they had a chance to win the game, and all they do is beat up on bad teams. This team is so odd right now, and it's the only way I can describe them. I think that we all know at this point that they're not a real threat to really do anything in the postseason. I think that this is a team that internally has been looking forward to next year and beyond. And that is post LeBron. I'm quite certain that LeBron's not going to be a part of this team next season. And this just seems like a group that is playing out the string to see what they're going to be at the end of the year. And then 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Let's get out of here and build for next season.
I do wonder if from Luka's perspective, because it was a day that, wasn't particularly efficient for him from the floor. 8 of 24, 2 of 10 from 3. He had 15 assists on the day. So maybe he's like, okay, I've been hot and able to get the ball in other people's hands. Maybe we just go there. I don't know. This is what he had to say on the podium afterwards.
Did you and LeBron have any communication about the final play after it was over? When you passed it to him, did you think he had a shot, or did you recognize that it was kind of be a tough opportunity?
I just saw him open. I didn't want to lose the ball, and we didn't have timeouts, But like I said, shouldn't have picked up the ball. I should have tagged. I thought I was getting a clean look, but that's on me.
And anyways, it's not just that. You talked about the defensive issues for the Lakers as well. They had opportunities for stops on the defensive end late in this thing, and they couldn't get it done there either. Like Desmond Bane hits that wide open 3. Carter on the second chance after the rebound on the defense on their offensive side. They end up putting it back up. So they had multiple opportunities there and couldn't get it done. So it's kind of a 2-factor loss for the Lakers.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you also saw some of the flaws with this Lakers. We talked about them being bad defensively. They don't really have like a true wingish defender that they can throw at some of these better wing players. So, for example, Paolo Banchero goes out 36 points, 12 of 22 from the floor, gets to the free throw line 11 times, grabs 10 rebounds. They don't really have a true matchup for a player like that. So that's going to be a problem for them as they move into the postseason as well. It was an odd game. And the questioning too from McMenamin, don't you ask hey, why didn't you take the shot? Not about the communication from LeBron. It was, you looked open. Why didn't you take that shot? And
Weird.
I mean,
Just weird.
even if you get some mumble answer, it's fine. But it's an odd way to question him after that scenario.
The Hornets also pull away.
Here we go.
It was a dominant third quarter, second half. They beat the Bulls 131-99, and we can throw that win-o-meter up. I don't know if we have it, but this is officially the closing season win total has now cashed the over on the Charlotte Hornets.
Yes, they have. So Rich Bonatoni, right? Did he get it in?
He's very happy.
Yep, good job. Now Kelly Bidlin as well. This is the last domino to fall. We're waiting for our boy Kelly so he can get his 30th victory, just 2 away. But we talked about this yesterday. The Hornets have shown, it's funny, I do think they mirror each other. You know, the Hornets and the Lakers to an extent. We've talked about their statistical similarities and yet the differences in the record. The Hornets are good enough that they are just beating the absolute tar out of some of these bad teams. And the Bulls are a bad team. Everything is kind of falling apart, especially post-trade deadline. Their 10th consecutive loss now for the Chicago Bulls. But this Hornets team creating some distance, between themselves and Milwaukee. It's only 1.5 game lead, though, over the Bucks. And Giannis is looming potentially. So you got to keep winning these games if you're Charlotte, if you're going to make it into the play-in. And we need them to make it to the play-in.
Bucks are in action later on today as well, which we'll preview the card. But the winning as in dog game after game after game without Giannis has been pretty shocking. But that said, from the Hornets side of things, 12-3 straight up now, their last 15 games, 11-4 ATS. So they're a team that has been profitable if you're buying in on them on a game by game basis. You're profitable if you're fading the Chicago Bulls too. Not only straight up, you mentioned the 10-game losing streak here, but 1-13, their last 14, 2-12 ATS in that time as well. So if you've been fading the Bulls actively, you've been cashing in. Okay, you hear that music? We got to step aside here real quickly. Excited to have our good buddy Matt Brown join the program coming up next. Going to get a little golf in our life. The Cognizant Classic getting underway tomorrow from Florida. Get his best bets and thoughts ahead of the tournament coming up after this.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Goodbye, West Coast swing. We're headed out to Florida this week on the PGA Tour, the Cognizant Classic, getting underway tomorrow from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Stormy Bonatoni, Jonathan Von Tobel back here with you on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. Excited to break it all down with our good buddy Matt Brown, who joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line. VSiN host of Ready, Set, Bet from 12 to 3 Eastern Saturday and Sunday. And, of course, host of the Long Shots podcast, the premier golf betting podcast you can get wherever you get your podcast, or on YouTube now as well. Matt, how we doing?
Look at that. The premier. All right. I like that intro there. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably
true.
You could also just say like the only one you listen to.
That's fair, I guess, as well.
It's the only one I listen to.
The only one anyone should listen to, period, exclamation point.
Although sometimes when I'm up early in the morning and working and kind of lonely, I like to put the video on because it's like all four of us are together, you know?
I like that. And listen, I'm glad you mentioned the YouTube. I put it out on Twitter this morning. We need people to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel or they're going to fire Kelly Bidlin. I have been told that he is going to he's going to lose his job if we do not get enough subscribers on the YouTube channel. So this is a plea for everyone to go and hit the subscribe button so that Kelly Bidlin can stay employed with the company.
I can't wait for Kelly to be driving in the car on the way home right now and be like, wait, what? What's happening?
It's also good to know that some of us are all held to the same standards because I got the same email about Pod of the Future. So,
Matt, let's get into the breakdown of this thing a little bit before some of your outrights. And I know those derivative markets that you've had so much success with. This course in general, what are the skill sets that people should be looking out for as they're kind of plugging things in and trying to make decisions this week?
Yeah, first and foremost, if you kind of like go in and if you model this stuff and if you're just looking at course history and everything like that, I mean, you kind of want to throw that out the window. This course used to be extremely tough, which is why the field used to be terrible and it continues actually to be terrible because of the spot on the calendar. But it was nobody wanted to come to the Florida Swing and then play on a course that was extremely, extremely hard. And when it was the Honda Classic and they just played it on the dormant Bermuda and all of that, like this course was so rough, and you basically didn't want to come out here and lose all your confidence heading into Bay Hill and heading into the Players. And so you wouldn't get that many big name stars playing this thing. And then now you don't get any big name players playing it because it's leading right into 2 elevated events, and they don't want to waste, air quote, waste, a tournament, and they'd rather just practice out there as they head into the bigger prize pools. But I mean, mainly what this has come down to is they've overseeded it now with Rye. It's much easier. The scoring has gone down exponentially. We literally had a 59 here last year. It is one, as long as you can keep it out of the water, you can score here. And so with this, basically, you got to understand there will be variance. It still does lead the tour in water balls because there's just so much water out there on the course. But if you can keep it dry, there's going to be some people who score in this tournament for sure. And so just as you're putting together your model or trying to limit your, whittle down your player pool and stuff like that, just understand, if you go back further than 2 years, you are going to get very noisy, messy data because the course has completely changed over the last couple of years.
All right, let's talk about some of the guys then that are on your list. I noticed that Willie Z, Zalatoris, is on there. We haven't seen him since the end of January out there at the Farmers Insurance Open. Up and down 2 events. What are we seeing him here?
Yeah, so you guys we've done enough content together to know where I come in and I'm like, okay, I hate trends and I hate data mining and I hate all this stuff. And so what did I do? I went right in and data mined. So I went in and basically took like the statistics from the tour from 2020 until March of 2023. And the reason that the reason I stopped at March of 2023 is because it is when Will Zalatoris had his first back surgery. So when you go and you look when he was healthy, if you run the stats that I ran in my model this week and just put it during that time frame, Will Zalatoris is number 1 in the model, and he's number 1 in the model like by a long shot. And so I'm kind of going with the fact that he has had these other surgeries. He says he feels healthy. He says he feels strong. It's the best, obviously it's like training camp talk that we hear every year with all, it's the best I've ever felt, and no one ever feels terrible. No one ever gets in front of the mic, but you know what? I actually feel terrible, but he's, it's the best he's ever felt. It's the strongest he's ever been, all of that stuff like that. And so if he really is where he was before the injury, then he would be the favorite in this tournament, but that's not the case, and we haven't seen it with our own eyes. So we're getting a pretty fat number on a dude that if he can approach even somewhat where he was, then this is a pretty good value in my opinion.
Looking at your card for the outrights, it feels like fat numbers is a trend because everyone you have is 42-1 or longer. Who else did you add to round out that portion of your card?
Yeah, so John Kiefer is a name that maybe people aren't super familiar with unless they're really, really wrapped up into the golf world. He was really, really good on the Korn Ferry Tour. He is a guy that I'm trying to kind of get out ahead of here. If you go into 2025, I mean, this guy lived inside of the top 10 over on the Korn Ferry. T2, T4, T6, an outright win, outright second, another outright win, T7, T4, T7. Like this guy was all over the place on the Korn Ferry at the top of the leaderboards. Now, his PGA Tour full-time debut here has not gone incredibly well, but he's made every cut. And really the problem has been he can't putt it in the ocean. He has lost 3.1 at the Sony, 1.1 at the Amex, 1.1 at the Farmers, 2.2 at the Waste Management putting. And so, you know what? Let's get out of the West Coast. Let's head over here to the East Coast where we're off of these POA greens and all of that and see if he can't putt a little bit better because his approach numbers, he gained everywhere there. Off the tee, he's fine. Tee to green stuff is all fine. He just can't putt. And so maybe we can get a spike putter week here. He likes these, maybe he'll like these East Coast greens a little bit better. So definitely have me some Johnny Kiefer in there trying to get ahead of him. I think that number could plummet as well. And it's kind of a joke running on the podcast, Mac Meisner and myself. We have a love-hate relationship. I love betting him and he hates winning. And so it's a deal of like, I've lost more money on this guy than maybe any other golfer on the face of the planet. But here he is again at the top of the model, literally number 1 in the model for me this week. And so Mac Meisner yet again rolling in here. He does all the things well, except actually do it well for 4 rounds. And so maybe we can get 4 rounds out of Mac Meisner because it's super, super talented guy and checks all the boxes we're looking for, but man, just has not been able to do it for 4 rounds. So 52-1. And then Adrian Saudier. Yes, Adrian Saudier. You probably don't know much about him either. You probably shouldn't unless you're deep into the weeds. I mean, he's played on the European tour mainly. But again, another guy that lots of spike performances in 2025. He won a couple of times, outright second in another tournament. He's been in the top 5 a couple of different times as well. Checks a lot of the boxes, just in a super fat number. And a guy that was popping in the model, I actually had to go in and like look him up and stuff like that. I don't bet the European tour like Wes does, so I didn't even know who he really was. But I went in and looked in and dug in a little bit more, and so do like his number at 150 to 1 for somebody that I think would get a little bit more love if people knew who he was, but they don't. And so the skill set is there, and maybe we can hit a bomb this week.
All right. We know we like to bet a lot of these. It's not just outrights. There's top 10 markets as well. And I know you got a couple. Who are a few top 10s that you would recommend adding?
Yeah, let's go super chalk. Shane Lowry. I mean, he is the class of the field now that we had all the withdrawals. Like I said, unfortunate spot on the PGA Tour calendar. Jacob Bridgman, Ben Griffin, Adam Scott, Patrick, they all withdrew from this tournament. So now Shane Lowry is pretty much the class of this field. Loves playing here for whatever reason. And honestly, a top 10, he's been a top 10 machine at this course as it is. He's not long, but that didn't really matter because he's accurate. And that's what we're talking about, is keeping it dry here on this course. And so let's keep it dry. Let's go Shane Lowry top 10 here to continue on his role of having success at this tournament. And then David Lipsky it's a long shot top 10. It's 11 to 1 if you want to get him in the top 10, but he is your ultimate boomer bust guy. He doesn't win, but when he has like good tournaments, he's inside the top 10, and when he has bad tournaments, he just gets cut. So you kind of, you'll know after 2 rounds whether you have a chance with this guy or not. So it's kind of great. He'll just be cut, or he's playing well, and then you'll have a chance to hit this top 10, 11 to 1. So Lipsky, another guy, Doug Gim, top 20 in there that I really, really like. He no win equity really for him. His game is not really catered to win golf tournaments, but boy, he's just steady Eddie. So plus 320 on him on top 20. A couple head-to-heads as well. Aaron Rye over Brooks Koepka, and then Mac Meisner. I already talked about him over Mackenzie Hughes. Brooks Koepka, I'm laying a lot there, minus 137 there, and Rye over Brooks Koepka. But again, I just hadn't seen it with Brooks, and until I see it with my own eyes, I'm not going to trust it. And so I'll take the guys that I've seen and have data on and all of that, as opposed to the guy who's just got the name.
Matt, awesome stuff. Thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, Matt Brown, make sure you follow him on X at Matt Brown M2. And like we said, download and subscribe to the Long Shots podcast so Kelly Bidlin can keep his job. Very important. I am excited that he mentioned Shane Lowry top 10 because I was contemplating a top 20. So if he likes him that much more, that just kind of cements my feeling that I should roll with it.
Yes, it does.
Minus 105 for the top 20. He got Shane Lowry top 10 plus 185. So you can play it a handful of different ways. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Wanted to make sure we got that out.
What a guy you are. For anyone who maybe this is your first time joining us on Money Moves, JVT criticizes me for asking our guests about other things that I want to bet.
Or your fantasy.
Well, sometimes you need like the confirmation bias type of a thing, just try to see so what are you thinking about this? That's basically what I do to you on the NBA every day anyways. That's just part of the show at this point.
Those segments also known as Ask John Questions.
And you know what? What a tease, because we got one of those coming up, breaking down the NBA card after this. A bunch of teams on the second half of back-to-backs. We already billed on Monday a game that was a potential finals preview. Maybe another one tonight, albeit a little bit shorthanded for the OKC Thunder taking on the Pistons. We'll hit it all coming up after this on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you're betting college hoops, now's the time to get your edge. Right now, you can get VSiN Pro Access through May 1st for just $29.99 with our VSiN Hoops Mania Special. VSiN Pro gives you daily best bets, real-time bet splits from DraftKings and Circa, AI-powered prop tools, and full access to every VSiN show on demand. Watch and listen on your own time. You'll also get our March Mania betting guide, packed with team breakdowns, betting trends, future strategies, and picks from our VSiN top analysts. If you're planning to bet college hoops, VSiN Pro gives you the edge. Sign up now at vsin.com/subscribe, and we'll get into plenty of college hoops a little bit later on in the show. A big game in the Big East between St. John's and UConn. Some fun that we're going to have with our West Coast bias. best of in the West Coast games coming up today. But we're actually going to start in the NBA, where we just got some breaking news from ESPN's Shams Charania
Quite
about
literally.
a very important. That's not good.
It doesn't sound, looking up medical terminology, it may not be that serious, but either way, we'll get the scary part out of the way. James Harden has fractured his thumb. Now, the actual report is it is a non-displaced fracture, which means, it's still together. It's still in its spot. And it's I looked this up. This is how serious this is. The distal phalanx. Either way, it's the tip. It's the tip of his non-shooting thumb.
Okay.
So if it's not, it doesn't seem that serious when you describe it in that way. When you're talking about an injury and a fractured thumb, if you hear fractured thumb, you're like, holy smokes, this is terrible. But it's just the bone at the tip of his thumb that has a non-displaced fracture in it. So we will see what that means. Suffered it in the win over the New York Knicks. He's obviously not going to play today. The real question is, what does it mean for the Cavaliers as you move forward, who have had awful injury luck all year long? And here again with James Harden now suffering something. I'm going to say that what this really does hurt is obviously this run that we keep pushing for the Cavaliers to win the division. I've got them at 10-1. We've talked about them at that 12-1 price. Their schedule's really easy, so maybe you can still romp through this with just Donovan Mitchell, depending on how long James Harden is out. But for today, obviously not going to play. Now the question just becomes, how much time will he miss, and how much this damages the chances of making up a 6.5 game gap between them and Detroit if they can pull it off.
And with that in mind, can you talk us through a little bit more of this injury report? Taking on the Bucks today,
Yep.
Cleveland was an 8.5, 9-point favorite. Now we've seen that market swing all the way down to 3.5. And I know it's not just Harden that is injured today.
No, it is not. Donovan Mitchell, you kind of figured this was going to be the case. Second leg of a back-to-back. What were they going to do with these guys? But Donovan Mitchell is out today as well with a groin strain. So, and so is Evan Mobley. So this is a rest day for Cleveland. They've been playing a lot of basketball. They've been playing very well. So in totality, Harden is officially questionable, but you have Harden who's officially questionable on the report, Donovan Mitchell who's out, Evan Mobley who is out. So that is what you're looking at here. It is not going to be all hands on deck against the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks, meanwhile, Giannis is still out, so that's going to be something to monitor. I mean, I would still, for the Milwaukee Bucks. And like
if you were able to scoop up that 8.5, you're feeling pretty good about yourself right now, especially with how good the Bucks have been, even without Giannis recently.
They still catch a 3.5.
Yeah, they were a 6.5 point dog yesterday. They win by 11 against Miami, 7-2 straight up and ATS. Their last 9 games, they have been an underdog in every one of them.
Yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself because when I saw 8.5, I was like, it's the second leg of a back-to-back. They've been playing a lot of basketball. You do wonder if maybe they were going to sit everybody, but I didn't want to play the game of let's take 8.5 and then everybody's going to play and then I'm screwed here and then they get smoked. But I still think even when you're talking about 3.5, I would expect that starts to get cut down. And as I speak, right, speak of the devil and he shall appear, 2.5s are starting to pop up right now on the screen. So I think that if you can grab one of those threes, I think that would be worth it here from Milwaukee. Yeah. I would expect that this closes more in the range like 1.5 or so. And like you mentioned, they have figured out something. They have been playing well. Saw a monster game from Kevin Porter Jr. and company the other day too. So they at least have enough scoring pop that they're going to be able to go after Cleveland here.
Another game with a lot of movement and a lot of injuries to get to. Thunder at Pistons today. OKC on the second half of a back-to-back and not at full strength. Still no SGA tonight for the Thunder, expected to be reevaluated next week. Jalen Williams also out. Saw this morning Chet Holmgren is doubtful in this one. Detroit out from 5.5 to 10 in the bounce-back spot after Monday's loss at San Antonio. What do you make of this one?
Kind of want to take OKC here. I wanted to see what the injury report was going to look like, specifically the big. And Isaiah Hartenstein's officially out. Chet Holmgren, as you mentioned, is doubtful. So it kind of turns me off a little bit. But man, they are so good in that backcourt on defense, even without Caruso, Shea, and Jalen Williams, that I think that you can kind of bother Cade a little bit here. You can still maybe stay inside of this number. I mean, look, we saw what they did the other day against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not asking them to win the game. I'm asking them to potentially stay inside of a big number. So once Chet's officially ruled out, same with Caruso, maybe get a little bit more of a bump, and this closes in the range of like 11.5. Should note that the Pistons, of course, still don't have Isaiah Stewart out there because of the suspension. But I just think that we saw not the blueprint, and it's not like a lot of teams didn't think this was the case, but you saw that if you have enough to guard Cade Cunningham and get up in his jersey and stifle this offense, then just relying on Jalen Duren as a secondary source of offense is going to be tough. Now, this is a very short-handed front court, so that may be a little bit different here. But if you give me in the range like 11.5, might be a play on OKC. So reserve judgment till the end of the show, but probably an ad here.
Celtics on the second half of a back-to-back 16-point win yesterday over the Suns. Is just a 5.5 point favorite. One covered by margin now in 4 straight, 8 of their last 10 ATS as well. Nuggets on a pretty cold run where things sit. Anything stand out to you in this one?
Yeah, I just want to see what the injury report is. We're still waiting for that. Celtics have not submitted yet, as I am looking here. For the Nuggets, usual names. Aaron Gordon's not going to play out there. As we know, Peyton Watson is still out as well. But Jamal Murray's going to be out there. The rest of the crew that you would need to potentially get this done is going to be out there. I think that this would be a spot where I would look at Denver. This number, again, you're sitting at like 4. We'll see what the injury report looks like for the Boston Celtics. You mentioned where the Nuggets have been playing recently, and they've been a little bit of a cold stretch. And Jokic himself has not really played to the level that we know that he can. Having said that, you look at where they're at, haven't played since Sunday, a couple of days off. They were only in Golden State, so you come back, get some days in, maybe a practice under your belt. Situationally, I think it might be a little bit better for them here against Boston to get back on track before you hit the road on Friday to take on Oklahoma City.
The Spurs out from 6 to 7.5 point favorites in Toronto today. What do you make of this?
Kind of like the Spurs a little bit here. I know that you're talking about like you sound like surprised that the number is this big.
A little bit.
Well, first off, Scotty Barnes is questionable, so that's the big thing is whether or not Scotty Barnes is going to play. The other night, Scotty Barnes was the only good player for Toronto, and they just lost to Oklahoma City, the game that the team that has been shorthanded. So the Raptors didn't really look great, and if Barnes is not going to be out there, that's going to be a very big problem. And I just go back to again what the Spurs have to offer. They have an incredible defensive team at the point of attack. They've got a great guy in Victor Wembanyama that can clean up anything around the rim. They are going to be able to handle some of the wing talent that the Raptors have there. And I think it's just a good matchup for them. And then, of course, if Scotty Barnes isn't out there, that's another part of the puzzle. So He's officially questionable. Wait to see where he's going to be at. If he doesn't play, I would expect this closes like 8.5, maybe 9. And if he does, we'll probably get back down to like that, like 6-ish range. I don't know if it goes any farther than that, but we lean towards San Antonio. They're just playing really, really well on both ends and still pushing potentially for a better seed here in the Western Conference, although the Thunder are not making it easier. Even though they are missing all of these guys, they continue to win these games. Still, though, Stormy, only 3 games difference between San Antonio and OKC, and the Spurs going for their 10th consecutive win tonight.
The Thunder, to that point, won and covered 3 straight and 5 of their last 6, despite dealing with all of those injuries. Biggest spread of the day, Kings at Rockets. Houston opened a 14.5 point favorite. Seen some buy-in, though, on the road dog Kings, who ended what was a 16-game losing streak. The other night, they beat the Grizzlies 123-114. Rockets off a 20-point win as a 13.5 point favorite against the Jazz. The head-to-heads are interesting here, JVT. We saw Houston win the first meeting 121-95. Then they fell straight up as a double-digit favorite in the next 2. Rockets were laying 12.5 at Sacramento on December 21st, lost by 1. And again at their place on January 11th, laying 14.5, lost by 13 straight up. So what do we do in iteration number 4 of this series?
I would think that Houston is going to pace these dudes. Sacramento, unfortunately, won last time out. I mean, they got out-tanked by the Memphis Grizzlies, which is brutal for them, considering what they want to do is lock their status in for one of the 3 spots for best odds to get the number 1 overall pick. But as we have seen with Sacramento, that snapped for them a 16-game losing streak, and they want that thing to get back on track, I think, as quickly as possible. We know how thin they are. Absolutely nobody that you would remember or recognize is playing for this team at this point right now. So I think that the Rockets, they should be able to get this done. And by the way, so we should point this out. So yesterday, remember that 3-team parlay I mentioned? That came home, right? Because playing against those tanking teams and wanting to do it. The problem is today, you don't really have like a really good couple of partners to dance with here, right? You don't have anybody you would want to add on there. I think maybe you would add on Detroit, but again, it's the Thunder who have won these 3 straight games, even without all these guys.
It's a short spread because you get there on the Warriors against the Grizzlies with how much they've struggled. You mentioned like the team that out-tanked Sacramento was Memphis.
Yep. So I don't feel comfortable. I mean, you can talk about the Warriors. We haven't hit that game yet, but Golden State went out, and what we talked about yesterday, they lost to the Pelicans on the road, despite the fact that the market was a little too high on them. And here they are again, laying 3.5 away from home. So that's the part that stinks is you're going to get into these scenarios where you're going to want to try to play against these tanking teams, but you got to have one of these deep slates that you can pair something up with here, unless you want to add like Furman against the Citadel as a money line parlay leg. But I would not recommend that. So we'll sit back and wait.
That was a deep pull. Why'd you go full SoCon?
Well, because Furman's like a 15.5 point favorite today.
Is that a game that you bet?
No,
is that why it's top of mind?
No, I was just saying it's
that's
one
just
of the big
spreads. That's just such a random game. Okay, all right. I mean, I thought you would have gone like a top 25 big spread or anything, but Furman today.
Big favorite.
Gotta love the Paladins. How can you not? Okay, we got to step aside here real quickly. When we come back, we told you yesterday that we were going to continue our MLB series, and we fell to the wayside on it. So getting back to it.
Just like a New Year's resolution.
That's such a good point. We can re-hit that as well. How many golf events have you actually bet? That said, breaking down the Tampa Bay Rays, our 2026 play ball preview coming up after this.
watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves. Play ball. This segment of Money Moves presented by Upside. Download the free Upside app. Earn real cash back every time you fill up. Promo code SPORTS. That's how you can get 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. And we are continuing our MLB preview series, going through all 30 teams in the league. Today is the day for the Tampa Bay Rays. Can they try to fill up their tank a little bit after what was another down year a season ago? 77-85, missed the playoffs for the second straight year. Fourth in the AL East, which, as we know, is a very top-heavy division with the likes of the Blue Jays, Yankees, Red Sox. Even if you look at the odds board for this year, the Baltimore Orioles plus 475 in that fourth spot on the board compared to the Rays at 30-1. So expectations are that they're going to be a bottom feeder yet again. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, bottom feeder in the sense of they finished last in the division. Yeah, I think that seems very likely. The division in the AL East, arguably the best in Major League Baseball, and could be the case. So I don't think that would be their own failings as much as it is. They're just not on the same level as some of these other teams in the division. The interesting team to finish fourth, I think when we get to them, will be the Toronto Blue Jays, but we'll talk about that when we get there. But for Tampa Bay, look, they made more trades than anybody in the offseason. They were swapping pieces left and right. It's a pretty new, it's a new look somewhat team. I like the way that some of these season previews put it, where it was like, hey, there's a lot of quantity, but not a lot of quality. So we'll see how that affects them. But at the end of the day, you look at this team, you're going back home to your original ballpark, how that helps you out. I thought Adam Burke made a great point in the MLB betting guide, which is, you build your teams for where you play. And so this team had been constructed not to take advantage of a spring training ballpark with shorter porches and whatnot. It was designed to play at the Trop. So that should help them out coming back home, given the way that they're built. You've got good pieces in the lineup. You've got Junior Caminero. You've got Yandy Diaz there. You've got Jonathan Aranda. So there's some pieces in the lineup that I think that you can look at and say, all right, we've got some really good production at the top. Mm-hmm. The question becomes, what's at the back end of the lineup? And how does that help you out with your offense? Because it seems that once you get about fifth in that lineup or a little bit deeper, that thing falls off a cliff. And that's going to be one of the big issues for this offense as we get into next year.
What do you think they get out of Cedric Mullins, who's one of those additions? He was somebody who was very productive when he was with the Baltimore Orioles for that time. Did not have that same success, obviously, with the Mets. And I was looking at some of the training reports coming out of spring training and some of the comments that he made about kind of feeling rejuvenated and an opportunity for a fresh start. Could he be one of those pieces that could really help out the lineup from that spot?
I mean, potentially. The question is just going to be, do some of these projection systems, are they accurate? Because it's not really looking like that would be the case. Some of the FanGraph projections have you in the range of hitting like 225, knocking in about 14 homers and 50 runs. So is that going to be enough to really give you that production on the back end? I mean, it's a fine piece to have, but it doesn't seem like, if those projections are accurate, that you're going to get something here. And to what you're alluding to, I mean, we're far away from the 2021 season, which he hit 291. It was really strong over the course of about 159 games. And he has not really captured that. So why else would we expect anything other than fewer than 20 home runs, which has been his production since that faded season about, when are we now, 6 years ago, 5 years ago?
The Rays outfield last year combined for the fewest home runs in the majors with 29. So an area they're hoping that they can get some production. Certainly. You mentioned the ballpark factor, and with that, so for this rotation, should be at least a little bit better for them being back at the Trop. Steinbrenner Field had the 7th highest home run park factor in the league, according to Baseball Savant. The Trop is 27th in that metric in 2024, the last full season there. So that should be something that helps. What do you think of this general rotation that they're going to be putting out?
I mean, you got to feel, I think it depends on, we'll start there with what you get out of Shane McClanahan. We have not seen Shane McClanahan for a very long time.
2023, right?
Yeah. And so if you can get at the top any sort of the old Shane McClanahan back out there, then I think you're feeling somewhat good about what this rotation could potentially be. He's been far away, so out of sight, out of mind. But the last time we saw him in that 2023 season, over the course of 21 starts and 115 innings, 3.29 ERA, 3.92 fielding independent. He's can be a good strikeout pitcher as well. So if you get that at that top of the rotation, right now he's projected to start about third in the rotation, whatever it is. But that is going to be, I think now, all of a sudden, a group that looks a lot better when you look at what they have. Back end of the bullpen, I think you do look at it and provide some sort of question as to how you get to the back end of it. But for the most part, the pitching staff, you like it. Ryan Pepio, Drew Rasmussen, like if he is who he is, then you've got a pretty intriguing 3 guys in your rotation that I think can keep you in a lot of these games. And we should know, too, I thought Jensen Lewis brought this point up, and I think it's a great one. One of the better managers in Major League Baseball is Kevin Cash. He does a great job. He pushes all the right buttons, tends to get the most out of his guys. And so if you get above average pitching from McClanahan again in this rotation, holds out like you think, then all of a sudden you're looking at a group that I think could probably be pretty plucky. From a win total standpoint, Stormy, I find it hard to really find an angle on over or under. Like, it seems like a pretty accurate number for where this team is.
77.5, that win total. The over is even money, juice to the under at -120. You mentioned Jensen Lewis and Adam Burke. The two of them did yeoman's work in this MLB betting guide that is out now. Full breakdowns from a more analytics and then a player perspective on every single team, division thoughts, best bets throughout the course of the guide. So check that out, vsin.com/subscribe. You can join us on a full-time basis, get everything we do at vsin.com, as well as the guides built in, or you can buy the guides a la carte as well. So keep that in mind. Last thing here before we move on, you mentioned finishing spot in the division, -165 for them to finish in last, fourth +285, third 6-1, second 12-1. I was looking through the schedule last year. I didn't even realize this. End of June, they were sitting second in the division before things fell apart for them the back end of the season. And I know they had the weird scheduling quirk we talked about, obviously, where they were at Steinbrenner Field. But anything else from a betting perspective people should take into consideration on the Rays before we move on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would think that 5th place seems pretty strong, and obviously the pricing is right where that should be. I thought it was an interesting point brought up by our guys too, is, with this new group at the top in the front office, how do they operate around the trade deadline and what do they want to do? I think, let me pull this up because I think Adam's hot take for this, because they have these hot takes, right? Or whatever it is.
He said the Rays are pretty far out in July, and one of their AL East rivals pays a rich sum for Drew Rasmussen at the trade deadline.
Yeah. So if you flip Rasmussen and all of a sudden you're looking around and going, all right, what if they become sellers at the deadline? Then I think that is somewhat interesting, but we just don't know how this team's going to operate from that standpoint. I think there's probably a case that could happen. I don't know if it's an AL East team, as Adam puts in there, but that really is just depends on where they're at that point. So it's hard to really predict where they're going to finish. But I think 5th is a pretty solid wager that they're going to be there.
Jensen had a bold take that the Rays can win 85 plus games. Yeah. So we'll see if that ends up coming to fruition or not too. They were very opposing sides on this one.
Yes, they were.
And there are a lot of, I felt like going through the previews, some commonalities and teams that they had at least a similar thought process on. And there were a few like this where it's like, nope, I think this team's good and I think this team's going to be bad. Meanwhile, we didn't talk a lot of college basketball yet. And I know we're going to look ahead to the card coming up tonight in a bit, but some interesting results from last night as well. Yeah. No doubt about it. We were wondering what that Duke Notre Dame game was going to look like. I was kicking myself because I took the under for the game, but every time I brought up the under, I also brought up the Notre Dame team total under, and that ends up coming through. The game under does not, because Duke puts up 100.
Yes.
So that was a little bit of a crusher for me, but Duke absolutely dominated, easy cover of the spread for them, never in question. A weird game for fellow top seed and where things sit right now. Number 2, Arizona trailed Baylor by as many as 10 in the second half yesterday. 13 lead changes before they finally pulled away in the last 4 minutes. So they were kind of up against it for a minute. What do you make of the differences between the top 2 seeds we saw yesterday?
Really quickly, I'm sorry. We will talk about that, but I do have to note one last thing about the Tampa Bay Rays. Thank you, Justin, for reminding me. The Rays have not won on April 15th since 2011.
Oh, lock it in. Yeah.
So we have to remember that. Remember that trend for you that totally has legs at this point right now. Funny. Duke beat the crap out of Notre Dame yesterday.
So bad.
And we talked about this on the show, which was, if you're in that locker room and if you're Shire, if you're the part of the staff, you're telling them, guys, this is a weird spot. You better come in and focus up. Yeah. Because you can go on the road here against, as Wes pointed out, and we talked to him about it, one of the better home environments probably for a Notre Dame team that hasn't had much to play for, but everybody wants to go see Duke. Boozer was incredible, 24 points, 13 rebounds. And then you mentioned Arizona too. I mean, getting it done on the road, ended up not covering, but I think that you look at this Duke team, I've become more and more impressed with them. Obviously the Michigan game and being able to do that, but handling a spot like this with relative ease, with ease, was wildly impressive.
A couple upsets yesterday as well, and we talked a lot about UCF and that number maybe being a little bit too big against BYU. Well, UCF wins outright, 97-84 in that one. Dayton also upsetting number 23 St. Louis. The Billikens now dropping 2 of their last 3 games. Your Miami of Ohio Redhawks, however,
keep going,
remain perfect, and they covered the 9.5.
They did. What did I say? I said, if you give me 10.5, we're going to be in. Sure enough, it falls right on 10. But I will say this really quickly too, just to point out, we have beat this like a dead horse. But BYU on defense absolutely sucks. Yeah. And again, yesterday against UCF, oddly enough, that number gets pushed up to 14. defensive rating of 125 against UCF. It was brutal. We hit this yesterday too. UCF good enough on offense to potentially take advantage of that and stay inside of a big number. They did more than that. Absolutely pulverized the BYU Cougars at home.
Yesterday was such an annoying day for me because I only made one bet and I lost, and I felt like so many of my leans and like things I was thinking about were
Colorado
the right
State.
side, but I didn't bet them. Yeah, CSU, Fresno State, Texas Tech handles business against Cincinnati, Iowa State, same thing for them. They win and cover at Utah, so a lot of those things. We will push it forward though to tonight coming up in the next hour. Also plenty of hockey. Remember though, stop playing full price for gas. Download the free Upside app today. Drivers are earning $200 to $300 a year just by buying the gas they already need. And for a limited time, promo code SPORTS, 25 cents per gallon bonus. Offers vary by user and location. Upside.com for details.